All right, good people, Montech is known for incredible price to performance ratio, and they're launching a new series, the HS series, which stands for Honor Selection. And let's start with the HS01. So this thing does not look like a $99 enclosure from any way. They're launching it in silver and black. They're bypassing the white color altogether. It doesn't feel super premium, but doesn't feel like a cheap enclosure either. And once you get inside, man, there are plenty of really interesting features in there. But first, huge thanks to our sponsors for making Comtex possible: Thermaltake, Fantex, Entech, and Titra. All right, so let's begin with the exterior. First of all, Ibor was just saying it looks like a better Corsair enclosure, which I agree with. Like, the ventilation pattern is nice and consistent, both on the interior and exterior. Everything, my finger's still there. No, everything is nice and toolless over here. A little inspiration from Fractal Design with their leather tab in the back, and I don't mind that at all. I mean, it is a toolless panel after all, so we can remove this. If we look at the front panel, the illumination is nice and consistent. The actual LED strip is on the front panel instead of being on the enclosure. Nice pogo pins, so everything connects without cables. The I/O is symmetrical to the front of the enclosure as well. As you notice, the three fans at the front can be offset to the side panel. Right now, for example, they're nicely centered, so for visual purposes, but for better airflow, you can offset them. Now, the side glass panel follows in the same footsteps of the front, of the illumination actually built into the side panel. And again, these pogo pins get connected to the frame, just so that when you open things up, things are a little cleaner. And some announcements gonna happen, so we're gonna see you back in a little bit. All right, we're back. Let's talk about the interior of the HS01. So the concept is to make hardware kind of like sunk in and make the frame of the enclosure kind of hug all the components. So first of all, the fans, the triple 120 fans go inside. It's their own cavity. There's a fine dust filter underneath, but this way, when the fans are installed, they look nice and flat with the enclosure. The second thing is the motherboard is also kind of sunk in with these different panels all around. As you can see, there's a removable panel underneath the micro ATX section. So if you want to go with a micro ATX motherboard, you can still have this sunken, hugging feel, but you can remove this for a standard ATX board. The PCI brackets, right now they're vertical, but can be rotated easily for standard horizontal. The back fans, you can see there's two of them, almost hiding the hardware inside the frame, which I absolutely love this direction. We saw this at Fantex with the Evolva X2. And I'm really impressed to see that with this HS1, which is only a $99 enclosure. And because of this additional extension at the top, whatever you install for radiators, a set of fans, you have all this additional height. So if you recall, the NV7 had that massive chin, not a chin is at the bottom. It would be a massive forehead, Dimitri. Excuse me, I should know my body anatomy, right? Come on, neighbor. So they're kind of following the same footsteps over here, but it's less aggressive, it's a little bit more subtle, and this is still, if you notice, there's no power supply. So we have fans at the bottom, and this is a dual chamber. And if Ibor, you come over, just look at how thin this enclosure is, right? Like, it's a very slim case, but it's still a dual chamber because the power supply is going to be at the back. So the power supply is actually at the top, and we have these additional panels over here to hide your cables. It will come with some form of a controller. I do love this paneling approach to hide the cables at the top. We have storage options that are still kind of accessible to us. This does not feel like a $99 enclosure. Coming from Montech, it's exactly what I would expect in terms of value to performance. And if we come to the black version, we can notice just how premium the whole experience feels. Now, removing the panel, look at how beautiful all the components look inside. The GPU is not getting poked by anything, you know, all the panels at the bottom. I love the flatness over here, especially with the triple 120s at the bottom. You can still do dual 140s at the front, by the way, and just the motherboard sits nice and deep inside. The power supply section over here does extend a little bit, but it feels like it's intentional, right? It doesn't feel like you're wasting room, and you can still do a 360 radiator at the top. So the Montech HS1 is going to be available in Q4, and another thing that kind of surprised me is that there's no massive Montech logo somewhere at the front. It's a very clean on the exterior enclosure, and a very, at least what to me seems like an optimized interior for your standard ATX hardware and all the graphics cards and coolings that you might want to have. So let me know what you guys think of the HS1 in the comments, huh? And continuing with the HS series, we have the HS01 Mini. Mini or compact? It is the Mini. So it's a 32-liter enclosure. It's following the footsteps of the Micro ATX hype that's happening here. But aside from supporting a Micro ATX motherboard, like built around it, you can still mount an ATX motherboard without compromising on the hardware, like the main hardware. So if you don't install the three 120mm fans at the bottom, you can install an ATX motherboard. You can still do a 360 at the top. You can still do dual 120mm intake or exhaust fans on the side. An ATX power supply is going to have three positions, like we've seen with AP201, of course, slightly in the top position, or offset over here to accommodate radiators, or depending on your GPU size and whatever. So I can't wait to see what this is going to be about. But of course, the highlight here is this beautiful exterior leather. It will come in different colors, both in the case and the leather. But we've seen wood, we've seen different fabrics. I've never seen a leather case before, so seeing that at a below $99 price point, that is, targeting like the premium Micro ATX experience, but not even being that expensive. That's awesome. And then we have the King 95 Mega Pro. Okay. It's the Mega, okay, and it's bigger to accommodate 420mm radiators on the bottom and the top. Not sure about the side. No, the side looks like it's a 360. The main difference here is that it's a bigger enclosure, and the side bracket no longer swivels all the way to the front. It only has a 30-degree swivel, and in their testing, it still helps with some GPU cooling, additional airflow that gets in without interfering with any of your radiators on the bottom and the top. So you can still do a full 420 while having the option to swivel that side bracket. That's mainly the thing, and it's $199. Still looks very premium, and actually, if we look at the mod over here, this is the original King 95, so it's slightly smaller, and this mod is absolutely bananas. Is this like actual metal too? Oh my god, it is. Yeah. It's awesome, like rusted, gorgeous. All right, so Montech is getting into the wood game as well. This is the Sky 3 Performance. We have two wooden pieces, one on the top, one on the bottom. Actually quite tastefully done. Ebert, don't you agree? Agree or no? Shake the camera however you want. Okay, okay. Also, Montech is not afraid to use tiny fans to improve cooling. This is the Sky 3. They have two 80mm fans at the bottom here in the shroud that is angled, and this air gets channeled directly into your GPU. I'm not sure if it's really worth it to have really loud 80mm fans for 1 to 2 degree improvement on the GPU side. But speaking of cooling, let's transition to Michael, see what's new.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a bunch of things that I'm probably gonna have to add to future roundups. Because look, Montech, they're known for delivering high performance at low cost. And that's really where the Metal Pro 12 series comes in for fans. And yes, we're going to add these to the next fan roundup that's coming up very, very soon. So what do we have with the Metal Pro 12? That's where literally everybody else in the industry is going. So that is a high performance, high static pressure fan that's a little bit thicker. So the Metal Pro 12 Performance Series tops out at 28mm in order to maximize on that static pressure, airflow, and whatnot that's needed for radiators. Something else that they're doing, they're going towards, of course, LCP. Like literally everybody else on the market, they're also adding a 6-phase motor to all of their fans. The other thing that you have to take into account is the Metal Pro 12 Performance Series, that tops out at 3,100 RPM. So again, we're seeing more and more fans surpass that 3,000 RPM mark. On the flip side of that coin, the Metal Pro 12 RGB, that is simply a detuned model that's a little bit less expensive, that also adds RGB. Now, pricing for these is actually quite good. So $17 for the Pro 12, depending on if you want white or black, and only $17 as well for the RGB models, and that's $17 each. We do have a white LCP model. Technically, they're still working on this because white plus LCP is excessively hard to deal with. They don't know if they're actually going to release this with LCP yet, but I'm crossing my fingers because they're probably going to be one of the first. Now, all of these fans, they carry forward into the Hyperflow Performance, both 360 and 240. So basically what you have here is zero RGB, no RGB whatsoever. The pure focus for both of these AIOs is on performance. So what we have is a 32mm thick radiator paired up with those 28mm thick fans, and they're really pushing that performance envelope because both of these have excessively high performance pumps. They're still tuning them a little bit with their OEM Alpatech, like a bunch of other manufacturers, but supposedly this pump will be specifically tuned for Montech. These coolers, at least the high performance version, will include an AMD offset mount. Thank you very much, Montech. The other thing you need to take into account here is how close the 360 and 240 are in terms of pricing. 360 is only $106, or at least that's the target price. The 240 is only $10 less. Why, you might ask yourself? That is simply because 360 AIOs are excessively popular right now, so they benefit from more manufacturing. There's more volume in it. Meanwhile, the 240s, according to Montech, 240mm AIOs only sell half the amount of 360s right now. And look, that's what's leading to this crazy price. Now, moving over here, we have those same RGB fans incorporated into, well, RGB AIO. So if you want high performance and no RGB, they're giving you that. If you want a little bit less performance and all the bling that you could possibly want, well, you've got these. Now these fans on these radiators, so the Hyperflow ARGB 240 and 360, they've been detuned. The pump has been detuned. The radiator is a little bit thinner, but the fans are still that 28mm. You're gonna get a little bit less performance, but again, it looks, to some people, subjectively, a lot better. So anyways, that is my coverage from here at Montech, and I'll see you in the next one. And so will Dimitri. Take care, guys.